Hello, Glenn here, Monster Guitars. We're approaching the finish line, but just as I do, I decided to make is it a design change? I suppose it's a kind of design change, kind of a construction change. I wanted to make it now, because once you're finished, you don't really want to go back and make changes. So, currently, this neck, this bolt-on neck, is held on with 4 screws. Now that's normal for bolt-on necks. The traditional bolt-on neck guitar is the Fender, Stratocaster or any other number of Fenders, and they have screws just like that one. And they generally work. Screws, of course, taper off at the end. Wood is capable of stripping probably much more easily than most types of metal, and sometimes with a bolt-on neck you'll notice there is a little bit of movement, a little bit of creaking at the neck joint when you move the neck, and basically it could be a stronger join than that, and I've decided I would like a stronger join than that. So I'm going to take out these screws and do a little bit more drilling, and I'm going to use threaded inserts so that I can bolt the neck on with machine screws. And I'll bring you in a bit closer so you can see exactly what that looks like. So I've just realized I can't quite do what I want. I'll show you why. So here are the threaded inserts, and the idea is that you screw those into the heel of the neck, and then through the back of the body you put one of these, 4 of these machine screws, which screw into the inserts and provides a really firm connection, a firm joint, better than a screw into wood. The problem is I didn't plan to do this from the beginning of this build, and certainly not from the beginning of this neck, which was ages ago. Had I wished to do that, I would have put the holes a little bit further away from the edge, because obviously that insert is much wider, has a larger diameter than that hole. And to make the hole large enough for that insert, and then to screw the insert in, it would rupture through the edge of the neck around the heel, and you don't want that. So I'm not going to replace those holes. I can't, because I'll ruin the neck. But I do really want a bit more strength and stability in that joint. This may seem like a crazy thought to some people, but I might put a 5th hole in, because the truss rod goes to about there. So if I put a 5th hole there in the middle on the surface of the guitar, that'll be about there. I think that would work. You might think, what's he doing? I think it would make the guitar better, and that's why I want to do it, because it'll give a stronger joint, and that's the reason for making this change. So I will just put one of these screws through the back, one of these machine screws. Let's drill that hole. Right, pilot hole. Now let's go and drill this out on the drill press, where I have taped the bit so that I won't go any deeper than I need to. Now, I've practiced this on a scrap piece of wood, so I hope I don't do any damage on here. There's a hex key opening at the end of the threaded insert, just to enable you to screw it into the wood. It's going to be annoying. Perfect. Okay. Jolly good. That's doing what I want. Now I'm going to have to drill a hole and another, words escape me, another wider hole for this countersunk rivet to sit in. Okay, so I've got the insert screwed in and I've drilled a hole large enough to accommodate the countersunk washer. Let's try this out, shall we? First time I've ever done this, you understand? Could go catastrophically wrong and ruin my guitar. Let's hope that it does not. So, I should have first made sure that I had the bit ready, shouldn't I? Right, that's a bit the right size. Okay, that's done up nice and snug. Maybe this hole is a little bit too large. I mean, it'll work, but I'm just gonna look. Maybe I was too late now. But would my smaller force and a bit have done the job? I don't. No, it wouldn't have. No. So that's kind of the one I had to use. Such is life. Such is life. There we are. That's I mean, that neck feels really secure just with that one in there. But of course, I won't just put the one in there. I'll put everything back in. Yeah, these steel screws are really soft, and I sometimes hear that as a criticism of Chinese steel, that it isn't as hard as what we have elsewhere. And that's most evident from the fact that the heads strip a little bit, and that's ugly. That's ugly. I am going to have to try and source some better screws than those. Mind you, no I won't, because in future I'm going to do everything like that. And there is still a tiny little creak coming from there. So let me just do that up a little bit more tightly. I think that's as good as it gets. There we are. I don't think there's much by way of movement coming out of there now, which is good. So there we are. In future, I'll use 4 bolts like that, and of course, the whole series of holes will be designed from the beginning to accommodate those bolts. So I will be able to use 4. I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't this time, but you know, you live and learn.